Hi, my name's Stuart Ralston, and I'm chairman of the Pagets Association. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to this short video presentation, which is one of a series we produced for Pagets Awareness Day 2024, which marks the 51st anniversary of the Pagets Association. So our theme this year is to look at new developments in research into Pagets. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Mrs. Susan McKinnon, who is a participant in the ZiPP study, which stands for Zoledronate and the Prevention of Pagets, which has just been published actually. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, so Susan, I understand you enrolled in the ZiPP study because your brother had been diagnosed with Paget's, and so maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about how, if you're aware, how the disease affected him and when he was diagnosed.
Well, he was in the Western General with lung cancer, and they tested, and all the families, children, his wife were made aware that he had this Paget gene.
Okay.
But he also had a problem with his left hand and his wrist
Okay.
prior,
Okay.
prior to having the cancer. You know, he did have problems getting up out of seats and things. So we think that he did have it,
Okay.
but
Okay.
we
So if
weren't sure.
okay.
And so, because I'm one of 8, they advised us all to get tested. And I was the one that had the Paget gene. The
Okay.
rest are all free of it.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so it was his wrist, and as you say, it was kind of a bit bent, I think, which can happen. Okay, and so you mentioned your other siblings. What about m moving back, like parents or grandparents? Anyone else in the family?
With it, us all talking about it, we all realised that my mum's father, who was elderly, he was quite stooped and had all the symptoms that you read about with Paget. But
Okay,
on hindsight, it's a great thing. And my mum always had problems with her hips and her back.
okay, yeah, it's a
So we
common
think it
theme.
came through that way.
Excellent. Okay. So anyway, back to you. So you enrolled in the study. We're very grateful to you for that, and you attended the Western. Um, At that time, although you carried the gene, did you have any symptoms that you were aware of?
No,
No.
no,
So you were
no.
completely fine, basically.
Uh-huh. I
And then you were in the study for how long?
oh, quite a few years.
Yeah, I think it might have been about 5 years
Uh,
or 5 or
uh-huh.
6 years.
And it really came to a head when I broke my wrist and it
Okay,
wouldn't heal.
okay,
And
okay,
put a titanium plate in, but I was
okay,
still getting a lot of pain with it. So
okay.
they took the titanium plate out, and then I was it ached, but I didn't have. I've not got the same power in my left wrist at all. But that was the first, and then I met you after. I think I had an appointment with you with Judy, and I realised that I did have
Symptoms.
some symptoms.
I remember that, and it was in fact, it was you finished the zip and then you went into what we call the extension study. And I remember Judy mentioning to me you'd started to develop pain in your hip, and that was giving you a
Uh-huh.
lot of problem too.
With COVID lockdown, it was when and if I was lying on my side, I was getting this soreness. It was wakening me up. Didn't realise that what it was, by the way. And it wasn't until I came back to you and realised that it was in the pelvis and the hips too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I remember, as you know, the study was what's called blind, so we didn't know who had got what treatment, and of course you didn't know who had got what treatment. But when you started to get pain, I had a look at your records, and it turned out that you had been given the dummy treatment, as it were, what's
Mm-hmm.
called the placebo. And I looked at your scans, and there was obviously quite active Paget's disease. So tell us what happened then. Did things improve or?
Well, you recommended the infusion, the treatment after I saw you earlier, and it has made a big difference to me. I'm 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 not so uncomfortable in bed or anything, and I feel I can get out of a sitting position much easier without the discomfort, which I was having before I had the treatment.
Excellent. Well, that's really good to hear. And of course, the treatment you had was Zoledronate, and it
Uh-huh.
is, as we know, a pretty effective treatment. So, it was great that you took part in the study. It has been a very interesting trial, and I think that you took the test, obviously, the genetic test. Is that something you might recommend to someone else who is in
Oh,
your position?
definitely. Definitely, I would recommend it to anyone, because when there is little things wrong with you, it's nice to know. And I think everybody should be made aware. So I'm pleased that I did take the test, and I would advise that I do have children at the moment, that 3 that I have not said to them, but I think of them, I might have to say to them, and to get just to check that they've not got the gene like from their mum.
Okay. Well, that would be great. Okay, Susan, look, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for participating in this very important trial. And yeah, thanks once again for your time.
But thank you all. I mean, for the support, everything.